official main topic of the night. I'm going to start this topic with an opening statement.
Do you like that, Chris? It's the main
Uh,
topic time. We got to get live.
drop the bomb. All right, I'm going to start this. I'm going to start this with an opening statement. I fully expect to have my Bills Mafia card revoked by the end of this
Oh yeah.
statement.
Oh,
But the
here we
thing is,
go.
this statement comes from how much I love Bills Mafia that somebody needs to say the elephant in the room. Marv Levy wasn't good enough. Despite a superior roster, talent, and experience, the Bills were outcoached in all 4 Super Bowls. But Marv Levy to this day is beloved. Is he a great man? Even a great leader? Absolutely. But when on the field with an equally superior roster or against an equally superior roster, the difference was him every single time. He wasn't good enough to win a Super Bowl. No city and no fan base should be more hypersensitive to good isn't good enough to be great than Western New York. Those 4 Super Bowl losses had a profound effect on our community. It taught a generation of people like me, no matter how good you are, talented you are, or how much work ethic and resiliency you have, you will always be the Washington Generals to the rest of the country's Harlem Globetrotters. My generation then raised a generation of Bills fans where the outcome became secondary to the party because the product was so inferior. For 2 decades, expectations were reduced to rubble. Then along came Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, and Brandon Beane, and everything changed. But did it change enough to surpass the 90s or just enough to surpass the 20 years of lowered expectations? My greatest fear for my hometown, for the younger generation of Bills fans, to have their hearts not just broken, but traumatized in a way that is reinforced over and over and over again. Yes, that was 4 times. I want this generation to learn from Allen and Bean that the pursuit of true greatness looks like. I want this generation to learn from Allen and Bean what the pursuit of true greatness looks like. Where good isn't good enough. So many folks are just happy to be better than we were, to once again be relevant. They hope this team wins a Super Bowl. That is shameful. It's the culmination of generations upon generations groomed to just be thankful for one moment, please. With Josh Allen, who was the absolute pinnacle of the quarterback position, and Brandon Beane, who is without a doubt the best GM in the league, nothing short of a dynasty should be the goal. Standard and expectation from this point forward. Every decision should be made from that lens, and anything standing in the way of achieving that level should be under constant pressure to be upgraded. Last year against the Chiefs definitively proved Mickey D is not bringing a competitive advantage to games where the roster talent is comparable. In fact, he is a disadvantage that must be overcome in the face of another mediocre head coach, even in the face of another mediocre head coach who ironically happens to be his mentor. All 4 playoff losses in the McDermott era were lost to weak, cowardly coaching, generic choices in quintessential moments, and he wasn't even staring down the game's greatest. He was outwitted by coaching legends like Bill O'Brien, Doug Marrone, and Andy Reid twice. The latter, ironically, being the example many casual Bills fans hold up as the ideal comparable for McDermott, which I would hold up as well as the ideal comparable with McDermott, except as the absolute worst case scenario. A dynasty caliber quarterback and roster that hopes to get lucky and
Not
overcome a
Andy.
superior head coach to win one Super Bowl instead of many. And in Andy's case, it took getting run out of town by the first city before he got that one lucky win with the next. How long before Kansas
The
City
first
gets
city was trash.
How long before Kansas City gets antsy that Andy is wasting the meat of Mahomes' career? Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers each won only one Super Bowl during all that time and absolute all-time great careers. Why? Because they had to constantly overcome inferior coaches for the majority of both their careers. So let's discuss what the difference is between a good coach and a great coach. Who wants first?
That's a lot to unpack, man. That is a lot to unpack. A good coach versus a great coach. I believe that Sean McDermott right now is a really good coach. I wouldn't say he's great. I think there's a lot left to be desired when it comes to playoff success.
What strategic advantage do you think Sean McDermott brings you on
I
game
feel
day?
I feel like I'm attacked.
It's defensively. Scheme. Defensively.
Okay, let me rephrase that. What strategic advantage do you think he specifically brings as a head coach on game days that couldn't be brought by an elite,
guys,
even him as the defensive coordinator?
Guys, we're not gonna just discuss how Chris just poured his heart and soul into that shit, and it was live as fuck. But oh my god, you just ripped so many coaches nuts off of their body. and
Look,
we're just gonna go just gloss over. And by the way, I said it, but Andy Reid, this has come from me. You got a fan in me. That first city you coached for was trash. Them was trash.
You know a
was
Philly
trash.
fan? Do you know if I mean as a Cowboys fan, you had to have watched it. He was
Yeah,
the
he
reason
dogged us.
that they didn't win a Super Bowl. The entire era, the entire Andy Reid era, he was an inferior coach in the game's biggest moment.
That wasn't his fault. That was Philly's fault.
They were the
Philly's
Buffalo
trash.
Bills B squad, 4 straight conference championships. Then they get to the Super Bowl and choke
That's
there
actually a
too.
good one. I like when this is y'all. You guys can discuss Charmin. I had my own view on this topic, and when I heard you tear into, I was like, I have got to see you guys go. I'll cap it. Go,
Chris,
go.
you my dog, but that's some you saying some shit. And if you post this on Twitter, they are going to destroy you. Now, Sean McDermott's a great coach. Like he's a great coach. Like he's not all time best or anything like that. He has to prove that. But to say he's trash,
He's a generic football coach. That's why I call him Mickey D's because he's.
Oh my god! You talking about when you play Madden, it just says head coach 1.
He literally looks like the Madden avatar of a generic coach that they give you. Like if
he's not Chad Masters.
You know that old 80s movie Weird Science where they put a bunch of pieces into the machine and it printed out a generic hot chick? That's how you get Sean McDermott.
Why do you hate Sean McDermott?
Because he's not a strategic advantage on the game day field. Any 12-year-old that plays Madden can run a clock better than this guy. He can't even figure out challenges. He can't even figure out when a team's got 3 timeouts, you don't protect the fucking sidelines when they can only run 2 plays.
That's a mistake. That part is a mistake.
You know what else I have a problem with? I have a problem
Release
with
the demons, Chris. Go. This is healthy.
Acts like he gets it, and on paper you look and they're the most aggressive 4th down team in the league, and he still is gutless and cowardly when the game's actually on the line and they need to go for it. He reverts right back to who he is.
He said you're gutless.
Everybody blames
cowardly.
Everyone blames him for the 13 seconds against the Kansas City Chiefs. You know what nobody talks about? Nobody talks about the 4th and 1 that they didn't go for in the middle of the 3rd quarter to punt the ball and have it end up in their end zone 5 plays later, and they were chasing a 2-score deficit the entire rest of that game because he didn't go for it on 4th and 1 when his fucking offense was unstoppable and his quarterback was in the middle of the greatest playoff performance in quarterback history, in the league history. This dude punts it on 4th and 1 when, the first drive of the game, he went for it on 4th and 1 twice. You know why? Because there was 59 minutes left on the clock and the score was 0-0. It didn't take somebody with some big sack of nuts to go for it at that point in time. Anybody could have. But when the game's on the line, when it matters, when your team needs you to go for it, no. And 5 plays later, it was in his fucking end zone. He is a liability. My fear is that this man becomes Marv Levy 2.0. Everybody loves him because he's a real nice guy, but he gets out fucking coached in the biggest games every single time. I don't want this generation. Listen, you guys know this. You're around the media. You're around all of this stuff. Most of us have seen the 4 falls of Buffalo. If the Bills get back to the Super Bowl and they lose, do you understand the shitstorm that's going to come down on this city? We're going to be kicked again. We're going to be dragged again. Oh, the Bills are back to start losing.
You know, it'd be even worse than that if y'all got to the Super Bowl and lost to us. That would cause a whole lot of
emotional damage.
Now all of a sudden the NFC East is good again. Like, what the hell? This is all too familiar.
Listen,
I don't know. Do you have more defense of your? I mean, y'all. I just was gonna tell you the difference between a great coach and a good coach.
Who hurt you, Doc? Who hurt you?
The Buffalo Bills. I can tell you 2 times they hurt him. I can tell you 2 times they hurt him, and they hurt him bad because we were responsible. So hey, Chris, I understand where you're coming from because the Cowboys have had a lot of coaches like that in the past that were puppets. One of them got a job for 10 years, had 10 years job security for doing shit but clapping. Fuck. Man. So I understand that. Now, I just wanted to add this because the question was, you know what I'm saying, what's the difference between a good and a great coach? So that was fucking amazing, Chris. I did not expect that. I am taken aback. I like that type of shit. That was some good ass passion from a real fan. But you know, if y'all lose this Super Bowl, if y'all get the Super Bowl and lose, I'm gonna be the first one to say, you know what Bill stands for? Boy, I
Yep.
love losing Super Bowls. But anyways, Sterling, y'all better not lose.
And if that listen, and the way it's going to happen is he's going to do something fucking
No,
stupid in the fourth
why are
quarter.
y'all doing this right now? The Bills
I'm
aren't
not
losing the damn
doing
Super
it.
Bowl.
I'm not doing this. I'm a Cowboys fan. We're gonna win that bitch against the Bills. That is, oh yes.
With Dak
We
at
out.
quarterback.
No, with Michael Parsons at linebacker. Yeah, buddy, and DB, and safety, and lineman.
Get out of
But no,
here.
we can argue. We can argue that they both have a lot to accomplish before they get there. But I will just say this: the difference to me, and to me, it's not even that complicated. I believe that football is one of the sports that they take something that does not have to be complicated and make it so complex that it fucks them up. I think common sense is the main thing that separates them. I mean, you have things like, okay, there's certain coaches, some are leaders of some, well, all have to be leaders of men, but some are just leaders as far as like rah guys. They get their guys ready,
Right.
and their assistants get everything set up, a la Mike McCarthy. I get my guys ready to play the game, but my assistants set them up for success. You know what I'm saying? The best coaches in period point blank set their players up for success. They do not put players in bad positions. This is why Bill Belichick is the greatest coach ever. It is not fucking rocket science. Bill Belichick goes out there and says, "Hey, what kind of defense you run? All right, that's the kind of defense I run. Come play for me." Oh my God, J.C. Jackson is amazing because J.C. Jackson is in a position to succeed every fucking play because the coach has enough common sense to realize I'm not going to go get a West Coast West Coast style wide receiver and put him in a vertical offense. And that's what happens in the NFL so many times. Baker Mayfield is not the best quarterback you've ever seen, but he is a victim of this as well. Lamar Jackson happens to be a beneficiary of a good coach who realized, hey, I have Lamar Jackson. Can he throw like Peyton Manning? No. But can he get the job done? Yes. So what am I going to do? We're going to run the fuck out the ball and we're going to give him the opportunities he needs to help us succeed. If we win or lose, it'll be on him, but he's an amazing talent. Josh Allen the same way. All the guys that are succeeding with good coaches, look at Jalen Hurts. Everybody that has a good coach is succeeding because the coach has enough fucking common sense to say, I am not going to put guys in bad positions. I am not going to throw 50-50 vertical guys to 50-50 vertical balls to 5'11 receivers who are better off running one-on-one slants and outs and cuts and digs and things of that nature. I'm not going to put Gronkowski on triple move routes that require agility. I'm going to sit him straight up in the field and tell Tom Brady, throw it. Tom Brady's regarded as the best quarterback ever. Duh, because in the playoffs, he runs that bitch. And he throws it up the seams, and he hits his receivers that are better than the corners guarding them in particular situations. It's not that hard. I think a lot of coaches get into, just like we say players get into, I gotta be the one that was the reason for everything. I think coaches have that same issue. They got to be the reason why the offense is successful, the defense is successful, and the special teams is successful. I was just gonna say I believe the Cowboys, and this you can call me a fan if I want, but this is watching their success. I believe watching them is a model of don't fuck it up. Like, if you have a guy like Jerry that wants all that shit, okay, that's cool. And I don't like that way the operation goes. But I'm also to the tune of Mike McCarthy, don't fuck it up. You got a guy that can call the defense. He's doing it. You got a guy that you finally got online to call the offense properly. Now he's doing it. Go for the ride and manage the personalities. I think that's a big thing in all sports. Just manage what you got. Don't try to make this shit too hard.
Let me ask you both a yes or no question. Do you think Sean McDermott goes to the Giants? He starts 5-1?
Yeah, I do.
Really?
I don't think Dable's a better coach than Sean McDermott.
You don't think Dable
Sterling. I think that's a good question, Chris. And I think that I would have to say what you're thinking, Chris, is no. But Sterling, I think that we're watching Daboll become one of these coaches that we look at like, holy shit, he's got that juice. He's what we thought Matt Nagy was gonna be. You know what I'm saying?
Gives a game day advantage.
But that doesn't. But to me, that doesn't mean that Sean McDermott is a bad coach or is a coach that's just good and not great. I think Sean McDermott is a guy that's. I think that guys are in this realm of you're not just a good, you're not just a great, but you have this window to get that shit done. And if you get it done, like look at Sean McVay. He can lose all he wants, but he got it done. So he's a great coach because he found a way to get his system to win. You know what I'm saying? So he is one of these great coaches. It wasn't just because, oh, it's just because players. Nah, when he had Gurley and Goff, he manufactured a way to the Super Bowl. So we knew he had the juice to do it. It's just about getting it done. So I think Sean McDermott is the guy that we're looking at like, we may feel this way about it, but we got to see you get it done before we can say, like, you know what I'm saying? Before we can say you're good or great. I think greatness in terms of coaching is always dependent on the finish line.
Yeah.
Did you win? Did you win the Super Bowl? More than players. You cannot tell me a coach that hasn't won any championships is better than a coach that has.
So
like, because that's the ultimate thing about with a coach. It matters more than anything else.
Moving away
did
from
you win
Sean
it?
McDermott and just talking in general terms, I think the playoffs ultimately almost always comes down to coaching. And I think that's where good teams go against good teams. And then what's the difference maker at that point? Your head coach. And that's where I think our guy gets exposed all the time. And that's where my concern is on, you know, if the goal is to win a Super Bowl, then anything that's not good enough to get that job done has to be assessed and considered for an upgrade. And the head coach, to me, especially once you get to the Super Bowl and it's two great teams playing each other, like they didn't, more often than not, you didn't get there by a fluke. And the difference to me, year in and year out, and who wins the Super Bowl is ultimately coaching.
Well, I think sometimes, I think sometimes it comes down to making plays too.
Yeah,
because if you look
matters.
at last year, it matters a hell of a lot.
For one Super Bowl, yeah.
I think
lucky and talent and the best team won.
All right, Chris, blowouts. So in blowouts, yes. In blowouts, you got out coached, point blank, period. But last year, we can't look at the Rams and say, we look at the Rams and the Bengals. We saw that Jamar Chase was running wide open down the field. And we saw that Aaron Donald made the play, but it was a good play call because he was able to make the play. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at it, it goes hand in hand. I think that's why mostly what matters more than anything is you do nothing but put your players in the best situation to succeed. And I think and yes, in playoffs, that does matter, like coaching matter, but I think that's the thing that matters in coaching is that we're seeing like you need to put this guy in the best situation. If he's good at running verticals, then in the playoffs, he needs to run nothing but verticals.
So I have five coaches here, and I want each of you guys to give me a yes or no on whether you think they're or good or great. I'll name one. You each say good or great. First one is Andy Reid.
Great.
Tony Dungy.
Great.
Mike Tomlin.
Great. Can I start real quick? Mike Tomlin is great +1. Mike Tomlin is the only coach that can successfully and consistency say next man up, and it works for him. Like if we're talking like in terms of like video game numbers, you could lose like a 99 overall player and replace him with an 80 overall player, and you're still gonna make some noise. Like Mike Tomlin's ridiculous, but go ahead.
Final one, Marty Schottenheimer.
Good.
I have them all as good.
Oh my God, Chris!
What's a great coach?
Oh my God, Chris!
Here's why.
Come on, Chris.
Here's what I differentiate that all of these guys have in common. They all coached for a very long period of time, the same franchise. They all had franchise QBs for a long period of time. They all had strong rosters for extended period of time, and they all only won one Super Bowl.
This is just me.
And most of them would have had multiple Super Bowls if they didn't what? If they didn't lose to the best coach in NFL history, the Patriots.
But this is one thing I have to say though. So when it comes to championships, I am one to believe if you get one, you get the credit from me. If you get multiple, you're on another level and stratosphere because it's hard to win a championship. So I don't really fault people for winning just one. Now, I will say this, though. When we talk about going into...
When we're talking about coaches with 20-plus years in franchise, Hall of Fame, all-time great quarterback, one isn't good enough.
So can I ask you a question, though? Because I immediately thought of Tony Dungy. If Peyton Manning decides early in his career that it's okay to hand off the ball, you don't think he wins more?
If Tony Dungy doesn't get fired, do you think he wins the following year? Man got fired and immediately got replaced by somebody who won a Super Bowl with his roster. Coaching matters.
No, it matters a lot. It matters a lot. But I'm saying like he lost the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he ended up and Gruden came in and directed the ship and won the Super Bowl.
And then he fell into Peyton Manning.
But wait.
Majority of Peyton Manning's career went 13-3 every single year and lost to what?
Hold up, Chris. You know I was not gonna let you skate, slide, and get by. Sterling, I would like you to tell the people who was the coach for the team. What? Not who. What was the team that John Gruden beat in the Super Bowl?
Let's see. John Gruden beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
No, didn't he beat the Raiders?
No.
He beat the Raiders.
He beat the Raiders.
Oh my God, Chris. Now, would you hold Bill Callahan in the same light as John Gruden because he took his players to the Super Bowl? Because that's where John Gruden was the year before. And when John Gruden left, Rich Gannon got the MVP, I believe.
I'm not following what the point.
Bill Callahan ain't shit. That's what I'm trying to say. Bill Callahan ain't shit. So sometimes players matter. Now John Gruden's a good coach.
What did Bill Callahan win?
Matter.
But Tony Dungy's team was so stacked. I believe Tony Dungy would have won a Super Bowl at some point with that team. But the team decided to go in another direction. And John Gruden,
they were right by what he did with the Indianapolis Colts. He was great with the Colts,
he
but
won. He won.
He won one Super Bowl with Peyton Manning's entire career.
Oh my God.
Embarrassing.
That's enough. That's enough.
Yeah, and I got way higher standards for all-time.
No, I can't fault you for as a coach sitting there saying that I coached the Tampa Bay Buccaneers up to a point where we lost on one fucking throw to what's his name, the wide receiver.
Great players' careers are 10 to 15 years. If they win one Super Bowl, I understand that. Great coaches are 20 to 30 years. One Super Bowl isn't enough to be a great coach.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that because we watched those games. And we watched the fact that we saw Peyton Manning get rattled and all that. That's not Tony Dungy's fault. That Peyton Manning could not handle the bump and run. Marvin Harrison could not handle the bump and run when they ran up against Ty Law and the boys. That's not their fault.
What was the first?
I mean, that's not Tony Dungy's fault.
If they ran the ball a little bit more, they'd probably have a few more Super Bowls.
Peyton Manning is.
That comes down to coaching. We're going to run the ball a little bit more.
So Sterling, let's ask Sterling. Sterling, so do you believe that Tony Dungy would have been able to walk into a room and say, Peyton Manning, we're going to hand this bitch off? And Peyton Manning, if Peyton Manning did not want to do that, do you think that was going to happen? Fuck no. They got rid of Adrian James.
Dude,
there's no reason to get rid of Adrian James.
Peyton Manning is the ultimate company guy. Forget about it.
Stop.
No, he's not. No. Tony Dungy sat him down. He's like, listen, Peyton, I love you, Chris, but I really think if we just do a couple more running plays, then we're probably
ain't Denver Peyton. This ain't Denver Peyton with the bad neck and no arm. This is Indianapolis Peyton, king of the world.
All of these coaches lost to the best coach to ever coach.
Then why did they get rid of Adrian James?
Because they weren't.
Why?
Anyway.
What? Because Peyton wanted to throw that bitch, and Peyton's like the best computer ever to play quarterback, so we respect it, and he won his Super Bowl doing it. But the team in Tampa Bay, Keyshawn Johnson was angry because they didn't throw the ball enough. Like he went to Indiana because
and the next coach showed up and made sure he got the ball enough.
Because
man.
I would sit here and say that number one, I'm not going to give John Gruden all the credit for coming in when that team was ready to win. All of the credit. I'll give him some credit because you got to put some shit together to win a Super Bowl. And so I'll give him some credit. But I'm not going to sit here and call Tony Dungy just good because he resurrected that franchise in Tampa Bay, number one, from nothing. And to be a coach, that to me means a lot too. Like you got to win at least one. But your ability to take some people, to me, the best coaches can take whatever the fuck they got out there and make it work. That's what makes you a good coach. And Tony Dungy resurrected that franchise. He took whatever he was given. The motherfucker went to an NFC championship with Sean King. man. Like Sean King, man.
Tony
Like
Dungy's and the Sean McDermotts of the world, they can run my
Sean McDermott.
They can run my sports administration department any day of the
Don't
week.
put them in the same sentence.
Those men in to run my campus.
Y'all need to put some respect on Sean McDermott's name.
I'm just saying don't put him in the same sentence as Tony Dungy. I'm saying respect Tony Dungy.
Right.
We're gonna give Sterling here the final word on our main topic for tonight because he's been drowned down through the whole thing. So Sterling, final thoughts on the difference between a good head coach and a great one, and anything you would like to retort to in this segment.
I think you can't mention a great head coach without mentioning a great quarterback. I think that relationship is super important, man. You got to have it. Find me a great head coach with a trash quarterback. You know, dynasties aren't made that way. And winning the Super Bowl is extremely hard, man. It's extremely hard. Bill Cowher, great coach, won a Super Bowl, right?
I'm gonna find one.
Probably should have won more.
Shoulda,
find one.
Coulda, but it's so hard to win a Super Bowl, man. It's tough.
I think any coach with a franchise quarterback can luck into at least one Super Bowl win. I think when you've got a great franchise quarterback and you've got a great roster.
Brian Billick. What do y'all think about Brian Billick?
I was gonna say I couldn't remember his name. It's Haslam, the coach for the Trent Dilfer Ravens.
Yeah, Brian Billick. He wrote a defense to the Super Bowl, but he was smart enough to let's.
I'm thinking about the guy he beat. My bad. I'm thinking about the guy he beat. My bad. Go ahead.
I mean, to me, that was a great coaching season because he took the tools he had and did the best, played to their best advantage in games, and had a quarterback that wasn't going to light the world on fire, but wasn't going to fuck up the 10-3 game, and so that was smart. It was good coaching.
Was it coaching or was it the legendary defense he had?
It was a legendary defense, but the coach was smart enough to lean into it and not screw it up by trying to freaking
can we just
on offense.
Let's just I know y'all gonna be like, oh my god, I let y'all hijack this shit with the Bills today. Y'all came in here, jumped me, y'all made sure the Bills got more, but let's just talk about the
I'm the one that's been jumped today.
But let's just talk about the elephant in the room, because what we're talking about and putting players in positions and watching
the elephant in the room is that coaching has killed the Cowboys last 15 seasons. You guys had the roster, the quarterback, all the pieces, and
but what has happened?
Let me finish this one last part of the rant. The dumbest sports decision I have seen in the last 30 years of sports was the hiring of Mike McCarthy. What the fuck were you guys thinking?
I disagree with that, because you know what Mike McCarthy has that we don't in the last fucking 30 years? Super Bowl.
Aaron Rodgers dragged his ass over the finish line to get that.
We're paying Dak $60 million to drag his ass across the finish. Micah,
literally the perfect example of why one Super Bowl doesn't make you a great coach. Because Mike McCarthy has one Super Bowl.
No, but you have to look at the fact that he is able to guide the ship. That matters, man. Yep. Being able to okay. Hey, Sterling, you always see like those people. You always see those people at the bottom of a industry food chain, and they see the administrator at the top who's managing all this shit, and they look at him and say, "You don't really do shit. All you do is make sure everybody do what the fuck they supposed to do. That's all you do. If everybody just do what the fuck they supposed to do."
The administrator have a little red ceiling flag. They don't have to decide 4th and 1s. They don't have to do any of those things. The administrator just has to make sure the paperwork.
You know why? Because the administrator has realized and is so dope at his job. He has sat down in the room with the offensive coordinator and the defense, and you could tell he's done this with Dallas. You saw Kellen Moore. You have seen Kellen Moore go from I'm going to try to throw this bitch 40 times a game to sit the fuck down, and we're going to run this bitch with 2 great running backs. That shit didn't just happen. Kellen Moore didn't just all of a sudden have a epiphany in his head and say, oh, I should do this. Mike McCarthy had something to do with sitting this man down and saying, look, man, while you have Cooper Rush, let's just do this shit. Run it.
Right.
Do you know what elite administrators do? Do you know what elite administrators do? They take a superior offense and they sit there and play baby games, like trying to get the other team to jump off sides on 4th and 2 all the fucking time. Like we have an inferior.
That's not him. That's Aaron Rodgers.
I'm just saying.
But you know what great project management is? Allowing your great quarterback to do that. Because maybe guess what might happen? You might get that penalty. And when you do get that penalty, hey, we'll take it. Because what's the wins and loss? What's the loss that we get from this? Nothing. Yeah. People on TV just going to be mad at Aaron Rodgers. Like, I think that's lost in this whole, like, I was a proponent. I'm a fan of Mike McCarthy. I was the one that said it's not a bad move. Because we see it. No, like, look.
Clearly, we're a Packers fan. I was a Packers fan.
But I'm saying, but even when you watch it, like, they got mad at each other. The Packers dispersed. But even if you go back and watch when the Cowboys are on Hard Knocks, the way he interacts with his team, the way that he talks, and the way that he has
Brett Favre under the bus,
he deserves it. Brett Favre deserves to be in jail. Fuck Brett Favre. That's the last person. Brett Favre. Chris, can I tell you something? I spent half of my life. Chris, I have love for Mississippi. I'll just put it that way. It's fuck Brett Favre on my side, all the way.
I can't.
Brett Favre. I owe you a fade. Like Brett Favre, you go. Like I do not like Brett Favre at all. He stole from the poorest people in Mississippi.
Down in absolute flames. But the on the field fact remains: this man earned the right to go out on his own goddamn terms. Ted Thompson, Mike McCarthy, and Aaron Rodgers is the fucking holy trinity of hell. All three of them motherfuckers conspired to stab a legend in the back. All of them.
And you know what? And you know what? He conspired to stab Mississippi in the back. So fuck Brett Favre.
He learned it from Mike McCarthy.